In recent years, we have seen many cases. For example, in Switzerland, there was a school children. There were two brothers from a school, and in the school it was customary to shake hand with their teachers. So in the morning when they used to come to their school, they have to shake hand, and when they used to go back to home, they have to shake hand. So these children, they said that we will not shake hand because our religion doesn't allow to shake hand with the female. And you know, this case was highlighted. The whole immigration process of the family was kept into halt. They said that we will punish them, and even the minister of law of Switzerland said that we cannot accept these kind of things on the name of freedom of religion. So on one side they are accepting refugees, but on the other hand they are saying that we will not accept these kind of things on the name of freedom of religion. So when people are coming, definitely they are coming with their religion, they are coming with their social and political and linguistical background, and the countries who are accepting them, they should accommodate their needs. They should prepare a mechanism, they should prepare a policy mechanism in order to accommodate the demands of these people. And a very famous case, Denmark, you know, these Scandinavian countries, these Finland, Norway, Denmark, they have very good indexes of human rights. So when we say human rights, we have Denmark, Sweden and Norway, that these are some of the good countries who are accommodating the demands of human rights, and they are, you know, striving for betterment of human rights. But Denmark's officials, they said that European Union should rethink about their refugee policy. We are not willing to accept more refugees. On the one side they are saying that we are for human rights, we should work for human rights, and on the other hand they are saying that we shouldn't accept refugees. So there is a clash between international law and national law. So these kind of questions also fall in this. And when a refugee is there, he is desperate, he has left everything in his home country, and he has no future perspective in that country. There is you can say that a stimulating factor which can promote radicalism in his subconscious mind. He can get stimulation if someone will come to him and say him that, oh, see that you are in Denmark, you left everything in your country, and now Danish government is not giving you immigrant status, so let's do a suicide attack, or let's become a terrorist and we will pay you money. Definitely he will, you know, accept this money, and he will, you know, try to do something, whatever he will call to. So these kind of questions, when it comes to the youth, youth not only as an instrument, but these are the people who are leading, who are practically leading now with the impact which they are making through the social media. If you remember, last year on the shore of Turkey, in Turkey, they found a small baby with red t-shirt, you know, a Syrian refugee who was found dead, small baby, in the Turkey. So all of you might have seen this photo. So this photo went viral, and this photo, you know, through social media, through Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, created a huge impact on that level that many European countries had to rethink about their immigration policies. Okay, and what happened? Germany opened their border, some of the other countries, Hungary, opened their border and said that, okay, let's accommodate them. So we as a youth, if we talk about creating impact, we can create impact. We have instruments like social media as an instrument, or otherwise, or maybe conferences like this when we are gathering and doing brainstorming and talking with each other, coming up with new innovative ideas, we can also make impact. So hopefully this conference will be very productive. I don't know if we have to pass a resolution. We have to write a resolution. Definitely we will strive for writing a productive resolution, something very innovative and something which can be counted on our behalf, on our credit, that this is our contribution at the end of this day. Okay, so feel free to ask questions, be confident. Nobody is going to judge you. We are here to learn from each other. I know that there is a huge difference between Russian committees and Kyrgyz committees and English committees, but still As an English committee, we will try our best to contribute as much as we can on the level of the parallel sessions which are going in Russian committees and Kyrgyz committees. Okay. So if everything is fine, everything is ready, we will start. We will start with the first presenter. We will start according to the list which has been given to me. The first presenter is Aygay Niyazbek Kizi and Mahmudovna Bulsara, Turkish Manas University. The topic is religious radicalism. Is it a threat to the Central Asia? I am very sorry because of my voice. As you know, some of you who know that I have been participating in many conferences during this week and I have been speaking a lot. And secondly, in addition to that, Bishkek nowadays have epidemic, so I have a sore throat and so I will not be speaking as much as I am expected to speak. Usually I speak a lot, the people who know me, they know that I speak a lot and I love to speak when it comes to the attraction with the youth, but today as a moderator my responsibility is to listen you, okay? So you will be speaking, I will be listening, and hopefully I will be speaking, but not as much as you will be speaking. So please, Aygay, you may continue.
Okay. Firstly, I'm Mahmudovna Bulsara, not Aida. Aida, she couldn't came, so I will read our report on myself, but we wrote it together. And our topic is religious radicalization a real threat to Central Asia, or is it exaggerated, overestimated due to some interests? And the term radicalization is understood as a process of developing extremist ideologies and beliefs in a path towards violent extremism, as we all know. And that radicalization is accepted as a precursor for terrorism, so that's why all security matters in every country in Central Asia, maybe Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, all these countries follow the radicalization process abroad and afraid that religious radicalization can be threat in our country also. So in this report we will concentrate on Central Asia and its particular countries on the ground of previously written literature. I would like to notice that it will be a report on the grounds of written literature, academic researchers as like Jusupbek Alimbek and Lau Mulin, Chizer Shaw and Montgomery, Baldiv, because I'm not expert in this field. And we chose these scholars because they wrote their academic research on radicalization, especially in Central Asia. Real threats of religion radicalization in Central Asia and their roots. Ghalim Jusupbek, whose main interest in Central Asian region and its issues, claims that there is a threat from religious radicalization to the region due to Soviet repression of Islam, which led to religious illiteracy after its collapse and prepared a good fundament for rise of radicals, illiteralist interpretations. The claims about Islamization and radicalization, there are main 6 claims about this. The first one is, as Ghalim Jusupbek said, the Islamization of society is a post-Soviet break with the past. And second claim is, to Islamize is to radicalize. And third claim is, authoritarianism and poverty cause radicalization. And fourth claim is, underground Muslim groups are extremist or radical by nature. And 5 is, underground Muslim groups are globally networked. 6th one is, political Islam opposes states. And another local author, Laumili and Jusupbek, they are intersect in the opinion that in order to reduce the threat from radicalization, states should strictly control the religious life of its citizens. Laumili supports this idea with the case of Turkmenistan. You know, Turkmenistan is an authoritarian country in which he claims that only this country, only Turkmenistan, is politically free from Islamic radicalization, and there is potential threat due to strict control and prevention of radicals for a long time. However, in his argument, Laumili doesn't take into account the historical discrepancies of each country after the collapse of Soviet Union and gain of independence. It is known that Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan chose more liberal paths. of governing in the beginning, while others favored more authoritarian manner, including Turkmenistan. Turkmenistan's once privilege is that it didn't let the seeds of liberty to be spread from the outset. But Kyrgyz and Kazakhs, they are more liberal, and they will not accept by the governing the later prohibitions. Therefore, today's strict governing in such societies will lead to nothing but class. Kyrgyz people will not, get prohibitions not only in religious type, but in any case. We know it from our revolutions, yeah? And emergent threats of religious radicalization to Central Asia and their motives. According to Baldu, this is also a researcher, academic researcher, the main motives in creating an alarming discourse on religious threat to security lies in the state's interest of ensuring cooperation and support by the big powers around. In this way, Central Asian states could emphasize on their own development and demonstrate their importance in the international arena. For example, a causal relationship is purported between Islam and politics. Let us say, in the report made by MVD student, I don't remember her name, she claimed that mosques, mechits, there is a rise on their amount, but I would like to say that this will not show the radicalization trend, because they think like this. An increase in public displays of religiosity, and then it will lead to radicalization, and then rebellion against the state. Content that the first from correctly denoting Islam as political to contentiously identifying it as a threat to secular state is a securitizing move. It is a move made not just by those who may have been identified as Islamophobic, but is widespread across Western and Central Asian states and societies where secularism in one form or another is foundational of political order. In a conclusion, I would like to say that, in brief, if we concentrate on articles and books discussed above on religious radicalization and threat statement from it in Central Asia region, we can see that researchers are divided into two claims. First one is they accept that religious radicalization is a real threat to Central Asia due to after Soviet Union there was empty and young population is they shifted on their identity, and this illiteracy can help to radicals, вербовать young population. And the second one is claiming that religious radicalization is threat, but really overestimated in the interest of state. State would like to, protect their secular system, and they see religious radicalization as the threat to secularization. And that's it.
Thank you very much. Maybe questions, and after that we will comment, because if I will comment there will be no questions, so
yes,
it is better. So if there are any questions, any explanations, you can ask, and then I will comment.
Sorry, I have a question about, can you prove the example about Turkey? You say that they control the life of citizens.
Not Turkey.
Yeah, can you explain about this now?
According to scholars, only in this country, in Turkmenistan, there is no threat stemming from religious radicalization, because they strictly control the religious sphere. And this also compared Turkmenistan with Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan, but the governing regime is different. These countries are authoritarian, and Kazakh and Kyrgyz population are more liberal, I can say. And this claim could not be implied to our countries. It was not Turkey.
Can you please give examples about comparing these countries, like Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan? You say that it's different and it's kind of not acceptable in Kyrgyzstan, right?
Yes.
Can you give examples, please?
Can I answer in Russian or only in English? For example, in Kyrgyzstan there is no prohibitions in Constitution 16, 16 вот это беленый, написано, что мы можем выбрать право вероисповедения, да? Мы более свободное государство, чем Туркменистан, потому что у нас не контролируют, ну, грубо говоря, сильно не контролируют. Мы можем выбирать себе и в Казахстане, и в Кыргызстане, в Кыргызстане. А в Туркменистане, так как государственная структура авторитарная, они контролируют эту сферу. И Джусупбек Галымбек, он предлагает, чтобы и в нашей стране был такой же контроль со стороны государства. Но мы как бы смотрим со стороны, что государственный контроль, оно не может быть приемлемо в Кыргызстане и в Казахстане, потому что люди более либеральны и независимы, и они могут выбрать себе вероисповедение.
Как вы думаете, насчет туда?
Kindly can you please speak in English because we have been broadcasted and this is the Russian English session.
Can I ask a question? So, do you think that increasing of building like mosques in Kyrgyzstan affects terrorism?
No.
No?
Yes, I don't think that it affects the terrorism.
And why? Can you explain, please? Because like a lot of people think that increasing like building of mosques it affects terrorism or extremism, whatever.
For example, if people build a mosque, it's my own opinion, it doesn't prove that people become a radical or terrorist and so on. It means just they want to pray, how to say it, to be religiously more literal, and how we can prove that these mosques can directly show the increase of radicalization process. For example, another example is if all people, not people, female girls wear a hard scarf and this number is increased, and this shows the radicalization process. No, these girls also study at universities and they also informed and they are not radicalized. And the same with mosques. If young generations, especially men, go to mosques and these mosques are, how to say it? I don't believe that mosques are related with radicalization. This is normal because we are Muslim population, and for example, I was in Washington DC and Washington State. In every street there is a church. In every street there is a church, and they don't say that this is related to radicalization. Why radicalization must be related only to Islam? Let us say that every American go to church and they will become a radical. No. So in our country also, in every street, in every region, there will be a mosque, and that will be not related to radicalization.
Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm sorry. You said that the Turkmenistan is an authoritarian regime policy, but it's actually a totalitarian system, totalitarian government, and I'm sorry, but you have claimed that the Kyrgyzstan government has weaker policies in terms of radicalism, in terms of preventing diplomacy, in terms of preventing people from radicalism and from Islamic fundamentalism. But actually, Kyrgyzstan is a secular state where religion and the state is different, is separated from each other. And I'd like to give you more an example of to be more clear, to be specific on your point of view, because you have already given a controversial point of your own, because you said that at the end you said that you establishing mosques in the Republic of Kyrgyzstan. It's not the affair of the Kyrgyzstan government. It's the affair of the Kyrgyz religion union. It's not the affair of it's the secular state. So do not violate the laws of the Kyrgyzstan. Sorry.
So do you want to respond?
No, I didn't understand him totally. Yes.
In which point?
In every point.
Okay, so basically, as I understood, he was asking that the comparison between Turkmenistan and Kyrgyzstan is not possible. And in terms of legislation, in terms of control, Kyrgyzstan has the same control as of Turkmenistan. So by this point, I followed him, you know. So
But the reason is that my claim was the same. Turkmenistan and Kyrgyzstan cannot be compared. In my report is written like this. These regimes cannot be compared.
So if
Is this the point?
yeah, so if there is a control, there is less radicalism. It has nothing to do with the political system. In Turkmenistan, in Turkmenistan, if there is an authoritarian regime, it means that they are less radical. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah. According to scholars, it's written like this.
Yes,
If there will be governmental strict control, there will be less radicalization in the case of Turkmenistan. But I declare that it cannot be implied in Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan. It's the same view.
Scholar Ammar for the question. Yes, I wanted to ask, do you think that this regime, here you said that it will be just reduced here, if government controls everything, it will be reduce of extremism? So
The point is that I'm not claiming, this is 2 points. One is claiming that there will be strict governmental control, and the other one is will not be strict governmental control. And I declare that in Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan it cannot be like this, because population is more liberal and they will not accept these prohibitions.
Is here like more freedom than in Turkmenistan, right?
Yes.
Well, I don't think that we are like in a very liberal country, because we see that the control limit of the government about uniforms, school uniforms, where girls they can't wear hijab or they can wear this thing, so guys they can have this beard or they can wear the thing that Muslim guys should wear. It's limits and people they're following the rules, these limits, and they can. Most of students they had to take off their clothes, traditional religion clothes, because of the school rules, because of the school uniform. And other thing that about mosques, because of it's getting kind of very fashion, go to mosque and build mosques, and a lot of guys are going to mosque, and after that, after mosque, they kind of behave very kind of religious, patriot, and they beat girls who is dating with maybe with Christian, maybe with Russian guys. They say like we have seen out of maybe in news, maybe if you follow that the guys they beat girls who is in the club in the night dancing. They say that it's not like Muslim girls should do, or they say it's not what Muslim girls should do. Like they should not date this Russian guy with or this guy with foreign guy maybe. And it's happening, like step by step. So
The second point is the problem of these guys. They will not decide what should do Muslim girls. Muslim girls decide themselves.
But
what they
still,
should
it's
do.
getting control, right? We say that we are liberal, but in other cases, we say that the control, the government can control this situation where schools is they limit students, where guys they beat girls, and then nothing happening about that. Now what about talking in the government? They're not talking about these problems. Even we are in a liberal country, right? So,
We saying that we are liberal compared to Turkmenistan, but compared to other liberal countries, we are limited. Yes.
Maybe it's about education. It's not about maybe control, about freedom. Maybe it's about education, about religion, about Islam. For example, maybe if they are like more educated than us in Turkmenistan people, that's why they're like less radicalism or extremism.
Maybe.
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 What do you-
Yes, we should research.
Okay, thank you very much, Gulzara, for the very interesting presentation, and to provide us with the literature review. It was very descriptive and informative. I would say that seemingly there was no thesis, I would say, according to the technicality of an academic kind of presentation, but still there was much to learn about the different opinions of the scholars who have actually done research, and it was collected in one presentation. To make it a presentation based on some kind of thesis, it would be very much interesting and useful for you as a student if you would take some kind of thesis. For example, is literally Islamization is radicalism? So this could be a good thesis. Or maybe you could argue about that political Islam is spreading and that is something which is disturbing for secular states, for which they are considering it as radicalism. Or you could talk about that why state control is important, or why state control in some of the Central Asian countries is successful and why it is not successful in Kyrgyzstan, and then you could bring the same examples. Or you could talk about youth is more leaning towards the religion, and this is something which is disturbing for the state, and they consider it as something radicalism. So these kind of, if there would be something like this, a thesis, and then you would argue based on these arguments which are researched by, which are already collected by these scholars, then it would be very, you know, a kind of academic type of paper. But still everything was there, but just there is a need to make you know, a sequence of events in your presentation, and it will be a very good academic paper. There are some papers who are for the sake of refining the situations. Means there is a situation and you are not understanding what is happening, so you have to refine the situation. So I think that this is a paper which can be included into that category. There are other categories, for example policy paper, where you find solutions to these problems. Okay, so but for finding a solution to a problem, first you have to understand the problem. What is the problem, what are the reasons of the problem, and what scholars are talking about this problem. Okay, and what scholaristic views are about this problem. So this is something which is considered as refining of problem, which was presented in the presentation of Gulsara. I myself did a research. I wrote a paper 2 years ago when I did interview with 10 students from American University of Central Asia, which is considered as a very liberal and democratic institution, progressive institution, and the second group was from Eastern University named after Mahmoud Kashgari, where they teach Arabic language, and they are considered as more traditional and I would not say conservative, but still they are considered as more traditional kind of students. So the topic of my research was to have an idea that these students, they use terminologies like democratic or liberal or secular. Do they understand what does it mean? Okay, so my questions were like this: are you liberal or democrat? So they were saying that we are democrat and we are liberal. So I was asking that, so it means that you are not secular. No, we are secular, but we are also liberal and we are democrat. So the basic idea was, this epistemological research was that when we use these kind of terminologies, do we really understand what does it mean? And when these terminologies come in collaboration with other terminologies, like you are secular and you are liberal and you are democrat, do you really understand what does it mean? Or when you say that I am traditional or conservative or culturalistic guy, or I am a Muslim, or I am a very much, you know, religious person, do you really understand what does it mean? So my research showed that they actually listen these words and use without understanding what does it mean. So some people would say that we are secular and we are liberal, but we are religious because we are Muslim. Okay, so on epistemological level, on the philosophical level, it doesn't make any sense. Here a new question comes, that how we are treating our youth, which information we are providing them. If we are giving them new words, new terminologies, all these isms, Asians or crises or these kind of new philosophies, if we are giving them, are we explaining them what does it mean? And if we are explaining them, does it making an impact? Youth is using these words, and when they use this word, do they really understand what does it mean? Okay, so these kind of researches are also very helpful to understand the, for example, in Gulsara's research, there is a state viewpoint, there is a public viewpoint, there is a youth viewpoint, and at the clash of these viewpoints, there should be consensus. Okay, and there should be way for which we should strive, we should struggle to find a consensus between all the factors, all the, you know, how to say, connecting dots between all the people involved in the process of if there is a radicalism. Okay, so first of all, there is a need to investigate, is there a radicalism? Then if this is something which we are considering is radicalism, is it really a radicalism, or it is something else which we are considering as radicalism? Or if there is a radicalism, is it a problem? Or if it is a problem, then what is the reason of this problem? And if there are reasons of this problem, then how to resolve these reasons of this problem so that we can solve this problem. So this kind of studies we should do in future. And the next presentation is by Hassan Boy from International University of Central Asia. His topic is education is the only key to resolve radicalism from core. Or maybe we will listen something which is my concern, that what kind of education we are giving. We are just importing globalized kind of education, or we are doing some kind of localized approach in which we are using international methodologies, mixing with our local methodologies and giving something which people need. So let's listen to the Hassan Boy. If you want, you can go there. Do you need PowerPoint or you
No, I don't need it.
Okay, you can go there.
Hello everyone, welcome to today's conference. I'm really honored to be in this place.
Can you turn on your mic? There should be a button.
I think it's on, yeah.
Okay.
Honorable Chair, honorable delegates, with distinguished delegates. I'm really, as a representative of the International University of Central Asia, I'm really honored to be in front of you, to discuss the topic of radicalism and extremism in terms of education. Yeah. I am a Muslim. I am a follower of Islam. I am a reader of Quran, but we are in Kyrgyzstan. We are living in a state, a secular state, where religion is separated from religion, where the policies are different. We have heard examples of the Turkmenistan or any other countries. We may take an example, but it's not the state that we are living in. It's not the state that we should have now concerned about it. And we have heard some examples of radicalism and the radicalistic views in Turkmenistan, but we have to be more specific in our views, in our terms, in this case. And it's all we know. I think all Muslims, all other Christians, Jews know that it's not Islam. It's the cover of Islam. All the other people know that it's just the cover of Islam, and it's just the alternative system of the state policy in this establishing government. And there are actually, we know this terrorism. There are a lot of ways to prevent it. There are preventive diplomacy. There are actually sanctions that are going on in this today's world, as we can see today. But there were two quotes, and I quote: "Is violence justified in the name of defense? In the name of defense, or in the name of eradicating evil?" There were two famous people in the world in the beginning of the 2000s that claimed they were. One of them was President of the United States, former President of the United States, President Bush, and the other was the Osama bin Laden. He claimed that we should eradicate evil from our lands. Osama bin Laden came up to the Muslim people to eradicate the evil from Muslim lands, but the former President Bush claimed that we should eradicate the evil from the world. In that context, he meant that. But we cannot actually go into war against them by militarily. We cannot go against any war militarily now. Let us remember a 14-year-old girl, Malala Yousafzai, who stood up against the Taliban, who stood against the Taliban through education, through carrying a pen, through carrying a book, through carrying a teacher against the Taliban. The Taliban actually tried to invade, tried to carry out some missions against that girl, specifically against education, against the educational system. And as we have heard that there are 500 Muslim soldiers who are going to Syria, who are radicalized, who are extremists, which we should stop, which we should focus on in today's topic. And we have in 2010 we have we have citizens of the Kyrgyz Republic. We have now that there is a very famous Muslim leader, Jubal, if you know. He's very active in terms of defending Muslims, in terms of educating people. We have to educate our young, and I urge you all to draw attention to educational system where we can find a solution. Educate our children and young generation. We have had many options. We have seen many options against terrorism and against the fundamentalism. But we have to educate our children in terms of religion, in terms of educating people that Islam is not a religion of war or warfare. It's the religion of peace. It's the religion of tolerance that we see. And we have heard some cases in the city of Osh. If you know that there are many people who are going as a soldier to Syrian governments as a fundamentalist, as an extremist, who are ill-informed, who are uneducated, illiterate, to going to the warfare places. And we have to stop it by educational system, by reforming our educational system, by creating opportunities, creating facilities to our educational youth. So thank you very much for your attention.
Can you please stand here so that we can ask questions and comments?
I'm open to questions. I will the floor to here.
Yes, please.
Yes, your name. Your name.
I'm sorry. My name is Samba, as I've already played. Yeah,
So I have some questions for you. You say that you follow Islam, yes?
Yeah.
You are Muslim, yeah? How do you understand Islam? Please, correctly.
In what context do you want to?
You say, I know Islam, and I follow Islam, and I learn Islam. And I have questions, how do you understand Islam? Not only Islam is peace, Islam is the one who do not fraud, war. That's your name, also, I think.
I think that these kind of personal questions you can discuss informally during the coffee break, because it is a academic conference, and here we are concentrating only on the articles and research which is presented by them. If you have to discuss something which is related to his personal viewpoint or his understanding of something, it can be discussed informally.
I'm sorry. He said about Islam and radicalism, yeah? And how we understand it means Islam and radicalism. Everyone here we are sitting who they think that Islam is one of radicalism, yeah? Maybe he also, one of them, he understand like this. That's why I want to listen how he understands Islam and why you say about radicalism in Islam.
If that's a personal question, my answer would be, as I already told you, I'm a follower, and I'm reading Quran right now, and
maybe you research about Islam before before telling about radicalism. You must.
What I am is that Islam is not related to extremism, and it's the political context, it's the political view and the political motivation and intentions that are carried out by some country and by some non-state actors.
I'm sorry.
Can I ask a question?
Okay. Yes, please one by one. Do you have any question?
I have a question.
Okay, you can ask.
So I think that he means that what is real Islam looks like. Like, can you explain this to us? Because I think he means like this. Like, what is real, pure, clean Islam looks like without terrorism, without.
I think that I should rephrase this question to make it clear for everyone. that what do you think that what kind of religious education is needed in order to make it more clear that these are the actual teachings of Islam? Because your topic is about education is the only key to resolve radicalism. If you are talking about religious education, what do you think that should be the idealized type of religious education so that it should accommodate all the questions?
How you teach?
Yeah. I want to give statistics from City Wash. There was a person who is called Dilaram, actually, who was an ethnic Uzbek, and who actually taught some people in her neighborhood about Islam, about understanding of her own religion, about understanding of Islam. And it turns out to be she was a radicalist, she was an extremist, and she's now in Syria, fighting in the name of Islam, fighting for the religion of her own. But what we want is to stop this kind of any kind of informal educational system and to teach that the real Islam, not the Islam that we should hear from the people outside in the streets, or the Islam and all the educational system and the tolerance should be taught. The tolerance should be given to the students, to all academical scholars and the students, so that they will understand this context, that it's not against any other religion or any other ideology. And we have to teach our children about the tolerance and...
Okay, thank you very much. Do you have similar question or something different? Something different? Okay, you can ask.
So maybe it will be comment, or I don't know. So you think that if we will teach our children or youth for the tolerance in religion, they will become kind of more tolerant and there will be no radicalism, right? But what do you think about the other radicalism leaders who are very goodly educated, who used to be very tolerant, who used to be working in highly jobs, and they were very good people who educated very goodly, but at the end it turned out that they became part of these radical people. So yeah, and in Kyrgyzstan the education system is not really working, and we can't teach even the school's subjects to students, and how it's going to work in Kyrgyzstan. Do you think it's a real solution to teach youth and children for this religion thing, and who is going to work in this sphere? Do we trust to those people who will teach, and how we can know how they are teaching? Maybe they are also will be part of these radical people.
My personal opinion is that teaching the views, the tolerance, teaching the solace to the students is the only way to solve the radicalism and extremism from the core. And that's why my thesis stands out. And there are some people who are educated, who are ill-educated, who are misinformed, who are misrepresented, who actually... Let's take an example of the Islamic State leader, Muhammad Baghdadi, who graduated university in business, in BA he graduated, and he graduated, he has a PhD in Islamic studies. Even if in that case, he's not understanding the real core of Islam. He's not understanding the tolerance of Islam that we should understand, that we should teach. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. You may take your seat. It was an interesting presentation in terms of that education is the key to everything, but still there are many questions which need to be explored. That, for example, if we talk about Islam, and as you said that everyone is trying to cover under the under Islam. So why they are not covering themselves under the other religions? Why they are covering themselves under the Islam? So is there something which Islam is giving them to cover under, or it is something which is related with the personal development of that person on a psychological level, or maybe the environmental effects, or maybe the personal circumstance in which he is living, and in addition to that there is someone who is utilizing Islam as an instrument and creating an environment for him to be, become radical. But still this question is there, and I really want to listen about this from someone, that why, if we say that Islam about peace and there shouldn't be radicalism on the name of Islam, and radicals, they are using Islam as a cover, so why they are using only Islam as a cover? Why they are not using something else, which is something very interesting, should be explored not only on discussion level, not only about only on emotional level, but on academic and scientific level. There is a need to do some kind of study on it. Then the other question, in the context of Kyrgyzstan being a secular state, Kyrgyz government doesn't issue license to the religious educational institutions, but on the other side we can see that there are religious educational institutions or madrasas which are working without any license. So there is a contradiction, that you are not giving license to the institutions and on the other hand they are working. It is better if you give license to these institutions, and by giving this license you can do monitoring. You can say that, okay, we will give you license, you are legal now, but we are going to monitor you, okay? Or if you are not willing to give them license, just close them. Why we have these religious madrasas? So government should play its productive and active role, thinking about, keeping in mind the sympathy towards the emotions of those students who really want to have religious education. For example, if someone from my family wants to study in a madrasa, I will say him, okay, go into the madrasa, and I would really want him to study in a licensed madrasa where he will study for 5 years or 10 years or 7 years, whatsoever, and after that he will get a diploma which will make him a certified kind of teacher of any religion. So government should think about this educational policy on the policy level, that if we want to control radicalism, and if we think that madrasas or these religious institutions are playing a very active role, then it is better for them to think about this licensing process. It will give them an opportunity to monitor them. They have an opportunity to introduce their own kind of curriculum. My professor from AUCA, Ammar Younas, professor of anthropology, he prepared a curriculum which he wanted to teach into the madrasas. So this curriculum was based on liberal arts education, that these madrasa students should have exposure to the other stuff, like something related with social sciences, humanities, or applied sciences beside this religious education. But the second problem which he faced, that who will teach this? If we have qualified teachers, they are not willing to go into somewhere in rural areas and teach this stuff. So government have to play its role, that if you think that this is a problem with the educational system, then they should care about it. That if there is a scholar who realized that these madrasa students should be educated in a proper way, he prepare a curriculum, then it is now the government's responsibility to provide with the resources, that they should recruit teachers, they should train teachers, they should increase their qualifications so that they can go and teach this kind of curriculum. Recently, if you have seen that in Finland, if you are following these news, that they completely abolished these school curriculum. So they introduced this liberal arts kind of educational system in which they are thinking that students should learn whatever they want to learn. So basically idea is that there is a certain age of a student. Up till that age he should get exposure to everything. He should study everything. For example, in school or college, he should study everything including the religion, and after that if he wants to become an expert of medical science, or if he wants to become an expert of religion, then he should get admission into a religious institution. For example, I am a medical doctor and I am an expert of medicine. If I would study medicine at the age of 5, it would be completely different, practically impossible for me to learn and to grasp. Maybe I could study, I could get a diploma, but I wouldn't say myself a medical doctor. So what I did, I studied college, I completed 12 classes, and after that I studied medicine at specialist level. So if there is a need to reform some kind of educational system, then government should think about this, that give a broad-based kind of education which is compulsory for everyone, and after that if you want to become expert of religion, you can become religion. religious expert. You know, it doesn't make any sense in any educational system to send small children into madrasas or schools where they study only religious education and have no exposure to the other kind of sciences. It is my personal opinion, but in terms of practices, this is something which should be think about. Coming towards the education, very difficult topic because as sciences or education or everything is developing, there are many things which are found on the interconnection of many things. Means if we want to reform education, we just cannot reform education without reforming political system or legal system or social system. If you want to reform something into political system, you cannot reform only political system, you have to reform all other systems. So they are everything, they are connected with each other, or you can say that reform should come, but the problem is from where you should start. Okay, and if you understand that from here you should start, then you should think about who will take initiative. In your parliament there is a division between strictly liberal what do you say then, parliamentarians? Deputat, and strictly conservative. And there is a religious community who has influence on the people's opinion. So how to bring them together? It is a problem of only education. So these kind of some researches, some studies, or at least some policy briefs should be produced by us, by scholars or students, that how to find consensus between everything, you know. So if education, yes, education, everyone will say that I need education, but how to educate and how to ensure that there is a risk management and there is a rehabilitation process, and how after educating people we will get desired results. If this kind of studies we will have, it will be a really good academic study. Coming towards the next presentation, it is by Mubarak Yakubova from Kyrgyz State Law Academy, the problem of religious extremes. So she already thinks that there is religious extreme and it is a problem. So let's think, let's listen to her opinion, that why she thinks that there is a religious extreme and why it is a problem. So please.
Hello everybody. As I said before, my name is Mubarak, and I'm very glad that I have an opportunity to be here and share my thoughts with you. The idea of my exam came to me not by accident, and for a long time I was worried about what motivates people who go into the terrorist organization and refuse all the goods of this world. Today there are more than 100 definitions of terrorism, but it always includes violence and cruelty. In light of the global policy of the past 200 years, we can see how high ideas of liberation turned into bloody wars and discredited entire nations. This was policy of Hitler, and this was policy of the US and Britain in Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, Vietnam, and atheistic policy of communism was identical. Nowadays, terrorists increasingly use religious motives. Political intrigue covered with quotes from canons for a long time. All confessions had extremist groups, whereas God's religion always promoted peace and good. Muslims were and unfortunately remain victims of terror, and currently using the term terrorism conducted a policy of double standards. Speaking about meaning of this word, we can say unequally that terrorist cannot be a Muslim and Muslim cannot be a terrorist. Connecting violence, terrorism, and cruelty with canons of Islam is like saying that Earth is square. It is absurd, but if media will repeat it many times, people who don't know religion and who don't have religious mentor will trust in it and think that it is part of our religion. And that's what happened with our youth. Our youth were 40 centuries that Islam exists. Such thing as Islamic terrorism cannot, have not been. Sorry. It appeared in the 90s after war in Afghanistan. Media began talking about Islamic terrorism, and people started to trust it. And there are people who see world in black-white color, and after them they started looking for more information about it in the internet. And of course, there are people who gave them information and gave them a strong ideology, and they turned their view of life by active messages and calls. As is evident from the foregoing, victims of recruitment are young people between 18 and 35 years, which was greatly influenced by Western media, and who haven't got any goals and meaning of life, because actually it is hard only sleeping and eating. Human beings need something what they live for, and terrorists give it to them. What can we do as Muslims so that non-Muslims stop thinking that we are awful, and Muslims stop thinking that killing people is appropriate? First of all, I think it's promoting good news by media in order to people get true information about our religion. And second is we must take responsibility and become professional and masters in area we work or study. We must achieve at the highest level in that, so that people will say that it is done by Muslim, and stereotype we are bloodthirsty will disappear. Now, recently my neighbor, mother of two sons, had tried to go to Syria, but as luck would have it, policy of Moscow catched her, and now she is at home, and she said that she doesn't know what happened and why she left her children and her husband and why she went there. What this means is that strong psychologists work with them, and we don't have to think that it's going on abroad and it doesn't concern us. It can be happened with all of us or our relatives. We must fix it, and our next few years, I hope, when amount of Muslims will thrive in business, in science, in culture, in sport, the right situation in the world will change it.
Thank you very much. Very emotional and hopeful presentation. So if there are any questions and comments before my comment, because my comment is usually very long, so yes, please.
She said that in order to show to other populations that Muslim is not terrorism, terrorism isn't a Muslim, we should produce short films, I think, that will prove that Islam is something about peace, something about real and good life. For example, did you watch the film My Name's Han and I'm Not a Terrorist?
Yes.
It's Shah Rukh Khan's film, and it's really good proof which shows that being Muslim, it doesn't mean being a terrorist. Yes. This kind of films should be promoted, I think, and should be also to cast in our own country also.
Yes, please.
So I have a comment about controlling the mass media. I think it was a very good argument about how, because we all know that the internet and this social media has huge influence to us, and we all see and we all kind of influenced by that. But we will show how Muslims behave not in a bad way, but in a good way. It will be kind of influence to us to behave as good as they do in videos, because I have read in internet that there was a statistic, I don't remember, but they were how many percent of students they were influenced by seeing, because when they make videos, they make this purposely, and they invite journalists and this video, and they make the videos to to call other teens or other their people to do the same as they do, and it kind of has bad impact for us. So I think it's important.
Okay, thank you very much.
I have a comment about. So like she said, also a lot of people say that Muslims become terrorists because they give money, they give food, they give something to live, right? And I don't think the money is a big reason, because I think that a reason is about reason is their mindset. What is in their what is in their head about information? Because you can't bring that person back with giving more money than that, right? Can you bring it? For example, if I'm a Muslim, I became a terrorist, right? And they pay me money. And if government came to me and they say, okay, I will give you more money than them, come back. And I will not. It's about information. It's about your mindset.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, you may ask.
You said that at the same time, terrorists cannot be Muslims, and Muslims cannot be terrorists. I can understand in that context. I had a difficulty in understanding that the context, because there are some Muslims who claim that they themselves as a Muslim, who carry a Quran, who carry the same, who are Sunnis as we are, who are fighting in Islam in Syria, in Iraq, and they claim themselves as terrorists, and I had claimed that what we can do as Muslims. If I try to educate other Muslims about terrorism and about the radicalism and extremism, wouldn't that be a propaganda, a violence, and threatening to religious minorities in Kyrgyzstan?
Okay, you can respond. Because Aziza is also.
I didn't understand it totally, but I think that problem is, and this question is related to your article of educating of people, because true Muslims know that it is bad, and they know that killing one person is equal of killing humanity, yes. And they also know that Prophet Muhammad said that truly believer, yes, is that people, that person who near with whom all people of all confessions feel them safe. Yes, and it's true Islamic and true Muslims.
Okay, thank you very much. Not then I can continue. Yes, definitely there were many questions which need to be tackled one by one, because it was a very broad presentation with many questions. For example, in terms of defining something, if we as she said that there are more than 100 definitions of terrorism, it means that there are 100 different types of people which can be attached to this one word terrorism, and how to assume that this is a correct type of terrorism. So in terms of definition, when we try to define something, we should keep in mind two things. First is academic integrity, and second is sympathy towards the emotions of the other people. Academic integrity means you should present the thing as they are, without any addition. And sympathy towards the emotions of other people mean that for which people you are defining this thing, they are agree with this definition or not. For example, if I say that, if someone asks me, define the Kyrgyz people, and I give a definition that Kyrgyz people are those people who do bride kidnappings or ukraina nevesta. Academically it is correct, but I am not having a sympathy towards the emotion of the Kyrgyz people, which makes my definition wrong. Okay, so when we define terrorism, because once someone said that if you say that once terrorist is freedom fighter of the other, So if someone say that he is a terrorist, someone else is saying him that he is my freedom fighter. For example, for police, these robbers or thieves, they are terrorists. And for the terrorists, this police is terrorist. Okay, so these kind of epistemological things when it comes to defining something is very important when we produce some kind of academic research. Also, problem of terrorism itself is a very huge problem. I would say that it is like a onion like a piyaz, that there are layers of issues, that economical issue, political issue, religious issue, and you don't know which layer you should peel first. And if we take a hub model, if we assume that this is the reason of terrorism, for example, if we say that education is the reason of terrorism, if we say that state control is the issue of terrorism, or if we say that media control is the issue of terrorism, then it is also not academically integrity kind of thing, because we are pre-assuming mi do etava absujdali uje ve svayam glave što voteta может быть da причина на самом деле это не так, да? So to have a broader kind of prospect, we need a broader research spectrum, and usually in these kind of cases scholars do a research type which is called as blue sky research or exploratory research. This kind of research, they don't have any thesis, so they start looking into a problem without assuming anything. They just start investigating a problem, and when they start investigating this problem, they automatically understand that what is the reason of problem and how this problem has evolved. What we are doing here, we are pre-assuming that this might be the reason, which I think that is a wrong approach in terms of terrorism. We should see a situation without pre-assuming, without thinking that this might be the reason, try to investigate that situation and then try to figure out. The people who say that Islam is doing this, or people who are saying that Islam is not doing this, should both have sympathy towards the emotions of each other. Both should follow this exploratory kind of research methodology. Both of them should see into the situation by doing a really objective kind of research and think that, is it something which is our understanding, or is it something which we pre-assumed and we were propagating, or is it totally different what we were propagating. Sometimes it is very difficult to change the beliefs. For example, if someone say me Islam is wrong, for me it is very difficult to accept, because it is the matter of my belief, my perception, to change something in my subconscious mind which is very difficult. I cannot accept this. But objectively, if I have to think about something, and if I do an objective study with by using the real academic instruments like researches, or by conducting some scientific studies, then I can have a scientific approach. And if your belief is too much strong, if you think that Islam is a very good religion, and if you think that there is nothing wrong with this, then do an objective study. And this objective study will produce good results if it is not wrong. Okay? So both Muslim scholars and scholars from who are against Islam should do these kind of objective studies, without having something in their mind, pre-assumptions there. So when we do diplomka, when we write this thesis, so we already have in our mind, we will do this, and результат должен быть вот такой. То это не research. Потому что мы уже решили, что результат должен быть вот такой, да? И мы можем рожать вот эту статью или то, что нам нужно, чтобы мы получили вот такой результат. That's why it is wrong. It should be done in the case of when it comes to the studies of terrorism. So the next presentation is by Cenevik Kizi Gulnur from International Kalato University. The origin and influence of religious extremism in Kyrgyzstan. You are the student of Mevluda or Aygirin?
I did.
Okay.
Both of them. My advisor is Mevluda. For first of all, nowadays we should understand that religion is really a huge weapon. And my topic, my work is devoted to the origins of regions and the impact of Islam in Kyrgyzstan. So, first of all, why religion extremism with each passing year gathering base in Kyrgyzstan? To answer for this question, first of all, we should look back. We should look to the past, yeah, and we should carefully examine the roots of the emergence of religious extremism. So, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, Kyrgyzstan became a sovereign independent state and was able to determine the economic, political and cultural development of the country. So together with the union, the communist ideology was also receded into the past, and as a result, there was formed ideological vacuum in the country. With the democratization of social life, Islam starts to revive in the country. In December 1991 was accepted the law of the Kyrgyz Republic on freedom of consciousness and religious organization. In accordance with international standards on freedom of consciousness and religion was established a legal framework of the state relationship with religious organization. In due time, the Kyrgyz Republic was faced with a lack of religious literacy among the Muslim intelligence and the clergy, which led to a drop in the authority. And extremist forces took advantage from this. They start planting their ideas. So in 1990s, Islamic missionaries who contributed to the radicalization in Kyrgyz society began to arrive into Kyrgyzstan. And there began to appear just different Islamic organizations. So in 1995, were noted actives of 4 Islamic organizations in country. So they are the Dawatul Islam, Islamic Cultural Center, the Wahhabist Circles on the Fundamental of Islam. They were engaged in cultural and education activities. So during these years, the country began large-scale construction of mosques, funded by Islamic State, especially by the Saudi Arabia. So pilgrimage to Mecca gained a great importance. If earlier Kyrgyz clergy subordinated to the Central Asian management Muslim, then in the country was functioning independent spiritual administration of Muslim of Kyrgyzstan. So there were constructed 1,600 mosques, 25 centers, foundations, and associations of Islam through missions of foreign faiths of Islam. So meanwhile, in the country, number of non-traditional Islam features and religious movements are increasing. This last is not always in the list of extreme organizations. According to representatives of Muslim clergy, some of them do not carry any threat to the society in the country as a whole, but there are also current which are recognized in other states as extremists. Yeah, but those are not in Kyrgyzstan, which states in certain imbalance in the fight with them. For example, the movement of Talibihi Jaman engaged in Dawat, which is prohibited in the neighboring countries, is not it's not prohibited, it appears in Kyrgyzstan. So according to experts, among the many groups and religious extremist organizations that pose a threat to national security of Kyrgyzstan, especially different Hizbut al-Tahrir, which progress more dynamically than others. So members of this group are particularly active in the areas of impact residents of this representative of Uzbek communities, Karasu, Aravan, Nafkat, Izgian, districts of Osh and Sudak, Badakovo, and Jalabat regions of the country, Hizbut al-Tahrir. So Hizbut al-Tahrir is a religious and political, which is reactionary, illegally acting organization. Yeah. Significant place in the political agenda of the organization occupies the following positions: a change of existing order and the establishment of Islamic State in the form of Caliphate by the CAP. The structure of the Hizbut al-Tahrir is built on the principles of pyramid. So each group, the cell consists of 5 or 6 people and is separate building structure according to this principle. According to the founders of the Hizbut al-Tahrir, it minimizes the possibility of failure. Creating a caliphate in territory of Central Asian states, according to the organization Hizbut al-Tahrir, carried out in 3 stages. First, underground operation. It is selection, training, and clandestine recruitment of young people into the ranks of Hizbut al-Tahrir. The second stage is claim openly about themselves. They just distribution of leaflets, organizing rallies, marches, public uplifts, and others. And the third, the last stage is the center of power by organizing a couple to oversee the constitutional order, building a caliphate based on Sharia. So currently the activities of Hizbut Tahrir in the south part of the Kyrgyzstan is on the second stage. They are just where the public statements, periodic distribution of leaflets. They have opportunity to openly recruit and train young people. In the course of employment, Hizbut Tahrir is presented only as a religion, but also as a political force which has its own ideology with respect to state building and social life. Some fanatics show special zeal and send fielding and not having their views on the lives of young boys to study in a religious school in the Middle East, especially in Saudi Arabia. Extremism emphasis is placed on young people. The problems faced by young people create favorable conditions for their exclusion from main public institutions and can prepare them to perceive the radical ideas and ideologies. First, which problems? Yeah. First of all, the psychological and economic problems, creating young people a sense of like hopelessness of the situation and feelings of the frustration. Secondly, is a desperate of this situation. Young people can push to the idea of total change in the existing system. Thirdly, for such people, the ideas and actions aimed at a drastic change of the situation, and it may be attractive for them. Extremist active peak falls at 25 and 29 years, followed by the age group 30 and 35 years. Most Kyrgyz who went to the Syria, Iraq, and northwestern regions of Pakistan were at the age of 20 and 25 years. So in the country, also into the ranks of international extremist organizations are increasingly involved women and children. In recent increased the participation of women in the promotion of radical ideas in the country. So, Director of Information and Analytical Center studying the problems of peace and security is Fergan Avali. Begjan Akhmatov considers that this feminization of religious extremist organization is distributing signal. He said that if women are in an organization, it will be easier to attract others. Women know how to review, to influence. They can bring their children and husband to the entrenched Wahhabis, his Salafis. So, if in 2005 the share of women participation in extremist organization was 1.1% to the in 2005, 2015, it rapidly increased to 25%. So, so he said, women are not aware of the matters of religion. If they were given distorted and incorrect information about religion, they will believe it. The worst thing is that if women enter the radical groups, lose the children and the whole family. The causes of extremism are many, like education, lack of education, poverty, ignorance, despair, and of course the corruption is also. Most of extremists remain at large and continue their activities at the expense of bribes. The main problem is the fact is that the Holy Book in Quran is interpreted in different ways. In comparing to extremism, it requires just joint efforts of public authorities and the public from their active and close cooperation. It depends. Okay, the success of the struggle, the time of prevention of the criminal activities. What I want to say that there are in Kyrgyzstan is the lack of qualified personnel needed to meet the growing needs in the Islamic education. It was said that only 20% of members of the clergy have a basic religious education in madrasas and Islamic institutions.
Thank you very much. I will appreciate only 2 questions because we have many presentations and we have to complete till 12:30. So if you have any questions or explanation, yes, Aziza followed by what is your name? Sorry? Sorry? Periza. Okay, Aziza followed by Periza.
Yeah, thank you very much, Gulnur, for your report. But we have some problem. We have a problem in Kyrgyzstan about religion. We have a problem about the terrorism. It's a real question. This question we sit here and discuss about this problem. What I want to know your opinion. Why in the south of our Kyrgyzstan, it's many followers of non-traditional Islam, в отличие of in the north. Why? Because the all non-traditional Islam is focused on soul. Why is it a problem? It is a big problem because maybe the reason of this problem we are separated on the north, on the south. Maybe it's because of the educational programs, for some boys said before. But what do you mean? What's the problem? The south south of the Kyrgyzstan focused of the non-traditional Islam followers.
Okay. So first of all, just compare the south part and north part, and it is obviously that south part is like there is lack of education really. So recently, like visit the teachers, our teachers went to the ocean and they said that their like students don't have aim yet, just like here. So here is education is more qualified, I think, and their aims students is just to go to Russia or something like this. They don't think about the future. They think just to finish the study and go to the somewhere. Yeah. So we know that in the south, most of the south people just go abroad here, like compared to the north part. And south part is like maybe because they are more poorer, and and also lack of education.
Lack of education from the
Yeah, also maybe I think the problem of religious extremism, it's also like before I said corruption. It is like institution. We don't have strong institutions, and it is the main problem. We don't have just check and balances here. We don't have strong check and balance, and it is a huge problem. That's why we have a lot of problems, like poverty.
So, as I understood you, you were going to talk about the impact of the religion in Kyrgyzstan, right? But like you didn't really give examples of like how the religion, but there were like a lot of massacres and kind of things increasing, cause of atmosphere, and not enough education, not enough things. Maybe it's impact of not goodly knowledge people, that there no enough education in Kyrgyzstan, like it's not good enough. But can we blame the religion itself that it's kind of impacting in Kyrgyzstan? Because I don't think so. And the other thing is that if the religion is impacting Kyrgyzstan badly, you give problems like examples, and so how would you, in your opinion, how you would imagine Kyrgyzstan without Muslim, not as a Muslim country, as a maybe Christian country?
Okay, first of all, I didn't say that religion influence. I said that religious extremism. It's a different thing, okay? Like religious extremism. I said mostly about the origins. Yeah, I didn't say much about the impact. But impact we see, yes, here today, that what happens in Syria, it's all. It is all the impact of religious extremism.
Okay, thank you very much.
She can answer the second question.
Okay, so you can ask in the coffee break. You can ask. I will also try to shorten my comments because we have many presentations. They told me that you should prolong your articles because we have only 10 articles, and in other sessions there are 20. But as we are continuing and we are taking, you are demonstrating your interest, I think that we can continue till evening. You know, that's very good. So I would say that through academic point of view, it was a good presentation because it contained both qualitative and quantitative data. It was a good chronological literature review, and Yes, there are many questions actually. It is the similar presentation as of what was your name? Yakubova. Recently, in June, I was in Estonia, in Tallinn, and I was in a conference, and the topic of the conference was freedom of religion in the situation of crisis. So we were discussing that if there is a crisis, then how to give freedom of religion to the people. And Tallinn is a city where you can find all kind of Christian sects. There are Catholic, Orthodox, Protestant, Lutheran. So there are many churches. So our guide he told us that, and you know that Estonia was also under the influence of Russia. And we asked him that how Christianity survived in Tallinn and how these churches are working, and they were working in that time also. So he said that when these babushki used to go to the church, they used to take their small grandchildren with them, because it was allowed for these grandparents to go to the church, and they were allowed to take someone from the family who can, you know, accompany them during this travel from home to the church. And because of this, they were taking them with them, and on the other hand, they were influencing on them. So since their childhood, they made their mentality that you have to become, you know, a Christian. And like this survived. But now if you go into Tallinn and see and compare it with the former Soviet Union's countries like Central Asia, it is completely different. It is liberal, democratic and progressive, not only in terms of politics but also in terms of sociology as well. You will find a huge difference. The same question, if I ask someone from Central Asia that how it happened that you are going towards extremism, what they say? They say that we were not allowed to practice our religion, and we were pressed under the Russians, and it was like spring, and energy was stored in the spring, and when Russia went back, the spring has boomed, and you know, now that's why we have extremism. But still, there is a huge comparison. There is something to compare with the Eastern European countries which were under the influence of Russia, but situation is different. Situation is different, same influence of Russia. Why situation is different in Central Asia? Okay, so here maybe we can talk about the role of clergy, the role of non-traditional practices of religion, that maybe these kind of things which are making difference in Central Asia. So this is something which you can do as a further study, as a comparative study with the Eastern European countries, that they were under the Soviet Union. There was the, as you mentioned, that ideological vacuum, but their situation is different. Why our situation is different? Okay, so maybe some of the reasons, one of the reasons can be the role of clergy, practices which are not traditional, and then you can develop your study more. But as a whole, it was a good academic study. So the next presentation is Aziza. By Aziza, they are very active student.
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
not true. It's not true.
actually, it is right. She is very active. You know, so that is very good. So once upon a time, when I was studying in university, I am talking about my first education, 2009, 2010, 2011. There was only one competition, Manas Cup, Kubak Manas, debate competition, and this was the only opportunity for youth to participate in it. And we used to get together once in a year to participate in Manas Cup. But now we have Model UN, Anectos, TIFE, and all this blah 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 stuff. So these are the people, like I see him, I see her. They participate in everything, and this is something which is very good. You know, there are 50 students in your class. All of them, they will get same diploma. All of them, they will write this on their CV, and when they will go for graduate school or when they will go for job, where will be the difference? The difference will be here, these kind of academic activities. Your employers, they will see that he was not only active in their studies, but he was active in outside of the academic world. I am not saying about you, I am saying in general.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Be scrum.
I'm
Okay.
so scrum.
Yes, but these are the people. We are very happy that after us, when we are becoming professional, there are some people who are replacing us in co-curricular activities, which is very motivating for us as well. So Aziza, you can start. The topic is government regulation of religion. Okay, so at least we are listening. At least I am going to listen what how Kyrgyz government is going to regulate this religion. You know, from the experts. Юридическая точка зрения.
Okay.
Sure, yes,
Yeah.
please.
My report is short, okay? I think it's very good.
Shorter than my comment. Or
No, short of other reports, okay? Kyrgyzstan is a secular country. In Kyrgyzstan, there are more than 80 nationalities. Each nation has their own customs and traditions. From time immemorial in the territory of Kyrgyzstan, representatives in a different religion, tradition, peaceful coexist, yeah? Связанные живут вместе. More than 80% of Kyrgyzstan population are Muslims, more than 60% of Christianity and others. In a state where there is ideology, ideology is the same in our country, the religion to some extent begin to assume a role of moral concept. Considerably influence of religion also increased in our country. At present, the government is taking all efforts to create a secular Kyrgyzstan without the interference of religion in political and other spheres of the social life. Kyrgyzstan was developed concept to the state policy of the Kyrgyz Republic in the religion sphere 2018 and 2020. The goal of the state policy in the religion sphere, creation of the optimal model of the church-state cooperation based on the secular character of the state through the effective state regulation of the religion and the public institution to ensure in the safety of citizens in the state, interface harmony and tolerance, combating religion, radicalism, and extremism on the basis of the human rights and religion freedom. To achieve this goal, the following tasks, improving the legal framework regulating relation in the sphere of public authorities and local self-government and religious organization, and the adoption of the set measures and the state education, culture, information policy aimed at the straighting interface, dialogue, and the principles of the respect for different views and beliefs, tolerance and toleration to prevent the radicalism of religion. Okay, and the religion is a good. The religion in our country give up is the ideology. Before, when Askar Akayev was expert in our country, we have an ideology. We have a manas. We have a manas, and поступки manasa was our ideology. But after manas, now we don't have an ideology. And religion, the Muslim religion is more of the followers of Muslim religion, they became our ideology now. What the government says? Government says that the religion is separate of our sphere in our life. What the government did? Government did they create some concept of regulating religion in our country, and this concept brought more states about the religion, more states about what we should do, what we shouldn't do. But I love in the words of Ammar about litanies of the licenses of the magistrate. Yes, our government doesn't have this license. Why? I think that it's a very big problem of what extremism what should do in our country, because we don't have the clever, we don't have the educated imams and muftis. Our imams and muftis are not yet of Islamic university. Our imams and muftis, not all of course, I don't think all, they learn the Islam at home and then they are told about the Islam for others. But true they say, is it a good Islam or bad, nobody knows. But if we are litanize the madrasas, I want to be imam, I must graduate this madrasa. If I want to be dawachi, I want to graduate this madrasa. And if the government regulate of this point of our country, it will be very good. very good. If I would want to be mufti, I must to graduate the Islamic University because it's a high school, and because the high school. And if I totally agree with the Husan Boy's topic about the education, and if our government regulates the education, the Islamic education in our country, it will be very good. What else? What I can say else? That's all. That we have problem, and government do some. They create some laws. They create some concept to decide this problem. This is very good. But the government not can do this alone. We are people of Kyrgyzstan. We are citizens of Kyrgyzstan. If we are connected in one problem, if we are splatimся, yeah, in one problem, we can decide this issue. Yeah. So.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry of my English.
Do you have any questions? Any comments?
Yeah.
Yes. Actually, it was really great. I was actually amazed by your speech and your report. As if I heard this report from the next leader of the Kyrgyzstan maybe. Yeah. And do you think that our government, the Kyrgyzstan, can regulate this? Can regulate and protect this kind of clever imams and religious leaders?
Our government cannot regulate themselves.
Yeah,
How they can regulate.
we all heard about this the situation with the one imam keep violence one little boy. It was worst situation in our country. It was worst situation in I think it's the life of all of citizens of Kyrgyzstan. Why our country doesn't regulate? If we all imams in Russian стояли бы на счету или our country registrate all these imams, and if they after they graduate of the madrasa, they I don't know, maybe проходили psychologist психологическое обследование like a teacher, because the all imam is a teacher. When the all teacher in our university in the school I don't know have a psychologist
Psychology studying their curriculum.
Yes, psychologist curriculum. Why the imams is the same teacher? Why there isn't have some psychologist, I don't know, справка психолога? Okay, in the Russian word, sorry, my English is not perfect. Because imams they say about Islam, but we don't know what about his mind, and it's a problem too.
Thank you very much. No, you can approach her later because only 20 minutes are left, and there are 4 presentations plus two video presentations and plus my comments. Okay, so as far as my comments is concerned, I also wrote about this one mullah who raped this boy, and I would say that religion is still a very important interest group. Religious people, they have their influence, and religion is something with which people are very much attached emotionally. Okay, so when you ban this Chubak Haji from media, it will also cause an influence. And when you will report these mullah raping the children, and you will propagate it, it will also cause an impact. So if government wants to control mullahs, they should control the other instruments like media also, because they should think about the people as well, that people take religion very serious. Religion is a very serious stuff. As far as making a nation, an image of the nation is concerned, it was a problem of former Soviet Union, that all the countries, when they separated, they had to build their own image. Like Kyrgyzstan got Manaz, Uzbekistan they have this Amir Temur, and I was reading a very interesting article. The article's name is "Building a Nation Through Dam." Building a Nation Through Dam, and it is written by F. Magna, and this article is about Tajikistan. So Tajikistan is building a dam. You know what is dam? Dam na usko isko bolte? Dam. Okay, dam. So they are building this Rogun dam, and this Tajik president is saying that if we will build this dam, everything will be, you know, perfect. You will become Kuwait and you will become rich. So he is trying to build his image, country's image through this dam. So this was a problem. Kyrgyzstan was lucky in terms of having religion. You know, there was a transportation going on between mullahs here and there, and also it was very much close. Uzbekistan did a border control and reformed, you know, through political and strict rules and regulation. So Kyrgyzstan was the next target. But still, when it comes to the legislation, when it comes to the policy making, government should keep in mind that people are very much serious about the religion. Okay, so any kind of legislation, any kind of rules towards the religion shouldn't hurt the emotions of the people. But parliamentarians, they don't have, I think, sense about this. So that's why they usually ignore the religious, anything which is related to the religion. There is a ghost commissia pravlenia religia and blah blah blah. But still there is a parallel structure of non-traditional or unqualified mullahs is going on in Kyrgyzstan, which is very active. Okay, so there is a need to regulate somehow, because the problem of extremism is still there. And in the morning presentation by this Julia from this police academy shows that there is a tendency that people are joining. You know, there are around 500 people joined ISIS last year. So what were the reason? Maybe this is the reason that we don't have the proper religious education.
Maybe some questions for sure.
You can ask in the coffee break.
Some comments also.
We are going to start next.
No, now I want to start. 2 minutes just.
Okay, you can ask question, but she may ask.
No. Yes, listen question. She said we don't have license in madrasa. Have you ever been some madrasas before telling this word?
Sorry?
You are not every time you true. Yeah? Sometimes some mistake.
Yeah, of course.
That's why before telling they don't have license and they don't have education, so they some use maybe psychological. I think I also graduate some of these madrasas, but they don't have such teachers, and they have all license, and we all legally. We don't work in how you say, or how our moderator also says they don't have license. I'm so sorry for your opinion. Before telling something, you must research something and check and say the truth. You are not leader of Islamic scholars, on Islamic educations. Maybe you say some information from internet and you tell me this is. I'm so sorry for your opinion.
No, I think that I would respond as my position as a moderator, because when we talk about licensing, we talk about the license by Ministry of Education. To establish an institution, it is like establishing an OSO or establishing any kind of organization for which you require a different license. But from legal point of view, when we talk about establishment of educational institution, it is through the Ministry of Education, and Ministry of Education has certain criteria.
Yeah.
When we see the diploma of students, they have some subjects which are compulsory. There are certain teaching hours which they should study, and they have to provide with the syllabus, which is you know, every teacher has its own syllabus, but this is a generalized kind of syllabus which is according to the requirement of Ministry of Education. The point which we are going to make is that if Kyrgyz government is too much interested in reforming religious madrasas, they should ensure that the teachers who are teaching in madrasas, they are well qualified. Government should provide them with proper resources. Government should monitor them, and there should be curriculum development. There should be money should be invested into the educational development of these madrasas. Okay, so if there is a curriculum, this curriculum shouldn't be static. It should be dynamic. There should be inclusion of new technologies, and it is only possible when they will get license of Ministry of Education. They will get funding from the government. When government will show their interest that we really want to reform this religious education. coming toward the second portion, which is related to her presentation, that there is a religious education which is very good. This is a specialized education, but a good religious education should be considered as a professional education, and professional education should be a blend of specialization and other subjects. Okay, so if there is a specialized study, then they should have exposure of other studies also, which includes sociology. There are other subjects, history of Kyrgyzstan, or these kind of, as other institutions have. Then it will become a proper kind of curriculum, and it can be included into the as the level of other educational institutions. So we were talking about this thing. It is nothing about that they have license. They can get a license as an institution. But when we say that they should have license, it means that Ministry of Education and government should be properly involved in the process of teaching. Sajelenio, there are very less universities. I am not talking about religious institutions. I am talking about other universities who have no career service center, who have no alumni centers. They don't know nashi vypusniki gide postupayut, nashi vypusniki gide rabotayut, nashi vypusniki vopshe katirutsa gide nibud ilene. Okay, so in terms of this thing, not only religious institution but the other institution should also worry. They should think that if we are properly teaching, what are the results? Are they becoming a responsible citizen of the country, or they are becoming terrorists? So then they can reform this educational process. But we can continue about this. I know that you can continue, you can also continue, but still. The next is Amir Ulu Eldiyar. Amir Ulu Eldiyar, who is this? Ah, yes. Now you can speak about your presentation. What is the topic?
No, I don't have anything.
Okay, so you have comments. You can comment. So
Yeah, comments.
no, you don't have.
No.
Maybe I answer for India.
No. Let's continue. This is not a debate. This is not a dialogue.
Yeah.
This is not a krugli stol. I am sitting here moderating an academic conference in which you have research, which dayute deklade ya kak specialist dayu swai commentary da. Eta deklade eta naujная исследовательская работа. It is not a krugli stol. Okay, so that's why we should differentiate between these things. The next is Bakit Beg Ulu Eldibek. Who is this?
Edilbek.
Yes.
I don't have any report because I'm just watching.
You want to contribute? You want to say something?
No, I don't.
Oh. So Maksad is not here. We are finished. We have 20 minutes left. Is it possible to turn on this computer? Who will turn on this? Specialist, technicist.
You're saying about video presentation?
Yes. Can we show it there?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you very much. So we have two presentations. Both are from Pakistan. And why they are from Pakistan? Because when I posted about this conference on my Facebook, these people, they said that we want to participate. So first one is from Lahore University of Management Sciences. It is by my real brother, my younger brother, Ammar Younas. Yes, he has double bachelors. His first bachelor is in political science and second bachelor is in electrical engineering. So he has double masters. His first master is in political science and second master he is doing in electrical engineering. So he is studying social sciences as well as applied sciences. So the second paper is one of my students in debates. She is from University of Sargodha. She is studying psychology, Maruf Mumtaz, and they have sent their paper. These papers are academic papers. They are not like discussions. So maybe you will have a chance to look at them as an example that how to write an academic paper. And we will see their messages. They have sent their messages, one message in the evening and one message in the morning. So they are short messages, video messages, and then we will try to discuss this. Unfortunately, I cannot read all of this, but I will try to summarize as long as I have understanding of this stuff. Okay, so I will give summary, then we will do discussion, and then if we have time, we will come back to the Aziza or maybe some others presentation. So, coffee break. Oh, bakharij was solution coffee break. Kamdati se utra gari coffee break. Niktori studenti, when I say them, are you going to participate in this conference? The first question they ask that there is coffee break, there is lunch. Nowadays it is the only motivation of to encouraging students to participate in academic conference. It is very skучная. But if there are coffee breaks, then students become very much interested. You can ask from Hassan Boy, he is very much experienced in coffee breaks. Okay, we девочки вам очень скучно было, я извиняюсь, или интересно было. Maybe you will comment something about что-нибудь хотите комментировать. На русском тоже можно, на киргизском тоже пойдет. Because there are some people, there are some people who are very much outspoken. They have talent to speak, and there are some people who are very good in thinking and doing this, writing stuff. There are many students, they don't speak anything in class, but they do very well in exams, and they get Krasny diploma, and you feel that how is it possible? So that's why it is very much important. Everyone has its own talent, and in terms of learning, everyone has its own skills. For example, some people they learn by reading, some people they learn by listening, some people they learn by just surfing on internet. So it is very important for us to know at the very early age that what is our talent, what we want to study, and if we want to study something, what is our talent in learning, how we can learn very well. We can learn by talking with people, we can learn by reading books, or we can learn by just watching some videos. Okay, so this is very important. At this stage you must figure out that where is your talent. Radite ni govorili što postupajete na Юракадемия и ми поступили, но ми не хотим работать как юриста, да? Как я не работаю как врачом. So there is a thing to compromise. You will get diploma of lawyer, but if you will start working as a lawyer but you don't have talent in law, or if you don't want to work as a lawyer, silly reason, что будет жертвовать, компромисс, маленькая зарплата, дома придете устающий, да, and you will say that I don't know почему мне не нравится своя работа, почему. То сейчас есть время to решать эту проблему, да, because after 10 years it will be very late. If you have one wrong decision, don't make second and third and fourth wrong decisions. Okay. So, specialist. Okay, specialist. Principally, it is not that important, but чтобы они участвовали, чтобы все было формально, we should see this. What is this? Okay. Also, in the last of this December, in the last week of this December, in university, Eastern University, where I am working as a researcher, we are going to organize a similar conference, student conference, and you are very welcome to participate. All of you should participate. We toje devuchki, toje участвовать в конференции, да? На английском, на русском, на турецком, на арабском, на любом языке, на любой теме. Okay? На любой теме.
What kind of conference is this?
It will be in Eastern University, Восточный универ. Мы поменяемся contact, and you can because we want to involve people, youth. For example, Aziza, she is here, he is here. These are the resource person. If I have to say something to the Law Academy, I will say to Aziza. If I have to say something to Tukmuk, I will say them. I will say to Ataturk, and and in the future there is a possibility to organize something serious, okay, something very big. So that's why these kind of small meetings, these are very important for us, just to decrease this communication gap. When mire stolka chivo preschodit, nikto nichivo ne znает, потому что there is a communication gap. We are lucky that we can, decrease this communication gap. Through Facebook, I posted on Facebook, people become interested, they send their paper. Likewise, I am inviting you, you will invite me, and in the future we will do something serious. Okay? Можно, да?
Можно?
Я вам спрашиваю.
I was waiting you.
Okay, I speak a lot, so you can start.
Sound.
Sound.
Maybe.
Maybe you can turn microphone.
Yeah. So maybe first you can just read the article, and now I will just 5 minutes.
Maybe you can discuss.
Yeah,
no,
now you can just discuss.
I didn't read this paper, so I was having some ideas so that I can.
Do we have 5 minutes?
Okay, you have 5 minutes.
May discuss my report because
Yes.
Okay, you can. You can discuss between each other.
We are jurists and we have juridical etiquette. If we didn't like some reports, we didn't say, oh, I'm sorry of your report, I'm sorry of your opinion. We are saying if we are juridical, as somebody don't know me, because we are not juridical, I'm sorry, but it's true. We are saying, oh, your opinion is not true because but it is not true. We are not saying, oh, I'm sorry of your opinion, you are worse or you are awful, like this. Okay, and about design. I agree with Ammar, and I continue his words. Why? Because our Minister of Education don't give designs for the madrasa. Don't give. I researched before I wrote this report. I searched a lot of information on the internet. Yes, of course, I was an organizer of this conference, but I find the time to research. Our Minister of Education don't give literacies. I don't know about what literacies you said before, but I know that they didn't give. They give for schools, they give for university, they give for, I don't know, for some courses maybe too. But I don't know about madrasa, and where you get this information, I don't know.
Now you can respond if you want, because we still have
point of information. Yeah.
Maybe I think that if
No, I'm sorry to
facts,
say. I think that there was a misunderstanding between both
yeah,
sides.
maybe he meant other thing and you explained it differently.
Yes,
so
yes.
Maybe my English is not perfect and you don't understand me, but
he meant different thing. Maybe he needs some facts, some statistics. As you say that there are no certification. Maybe you were supposed to give examples and statistics, facts. So here, this person, he doesn't have that one. Why? Because you said psychological license, where they do get it, why they get it, and there are some examples. Statistics, facts, exactly why, where,
okay.
And I didn't hear that also, so...
Yeah, about statistics, we are there, doesn't
Where you searched the... Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you can continue later.
Yeah.
Okay. We doesn't have some research about some statistics about how many madrasas have literacies and how many no, because it is first. The second, we all know about this situation, this worst situation when the one imam, I said it before, make violence about little boy. I think they all heard about it. Yes? Yes. The small imam. It's imam. He's a say about Islam. This Islam, the religion of the kind. How he can do some violence to the boy. They are not interested because maybe he has some psychological problems. But if he was a teacher in a madrasa, I think the government must give literacies and must monitoring and teacher of these madrasas must to have some.
Okay.
Okay.
Start over and send the challenge.
Okay, I'm very short. And our government must to give, I don't know, I say it in Russia, обследование имама у психологов, because all teachers do it, and the imams is the teachers too. It's my opinion.
If the teachers get the license, what you think about the teachers who beat the students at school?
At school too. Madrasa is
So
not school.
They're like, so the teachers, they get their license, they have their licenses, but they still beat students and have psychological and morally harming the students. And it doesn't mean that they're psychologically okay, and it means that they're psychological ill also, but they have the certification.
Okay, there is a coffee,
Okay.
Both of it was okay.
Hello everybody, I am Rehan Younas. I am a student of Electrical Engineering Department from Lahore University of Management Sciences, Pakistan. I am extremely thankful to Kyrgyz Law State Academy for providing me with this opportunity to present my work before distinguished conference committee. This paper deals with discussing the role of science and engineering studies in reducing radicalism. The gradual progress happening daily in this world of technology, thanks to science and engineering studies, it helps us in accepting changes more rationally. Nothing seems too abrupt, no change intimidates us anymore. I have also conducted a poll among student group to prove this point. Please refer to this paper for further details. Thank you very much.
Okay, so his paper is about, unfortunately I didn't get a chance to read the whole of this. It is like this, you can take it from us. So basically he is saying that the research which he has conducted, he took two groups of people, one from political science department and one from physics department. So he gave them the questions, and question was gravitational waves in space. That in space scientists have discovered gravitational waves. Okay, so the physics class, they were 30 people. They were normal, you know, they were normal, but majority of the people, they were excited, you know, they were excited. But in the political science class, 65 people, they were normal, and 26 people, they were excited, you know. So he asked from the physics class that why you are excited, every one of you is excited. So they said that because we know that what is gravitational waves and how they are working in space, and we were following this situation, and this is something which we know already, that's why it was very exciting to find something new in this field. So when he asked from the political science department that why nothing happened with you, why you are not excited and it is normal for you, they said that because we don't know what is gravitational waves, and we were not following this you know, happening, and we don't know what happens with gravitational waves in space, that's why it was nothing interesting for us. So here he makes a conclusion that if you teach something, or if you make a rational study methodology in which you give information with the periodic timeline to the students, and make them follow certain events, then if a sudden change happen in the society, they can detect it. For example, if you start teaching students about radicalism, that radicalism look like this, if they will see that something happening which is radicalism, they will become excited and this will be detected. So the problem is that we don't teach, and people, they don't know that what is this terrorism and radicalism and all this stuff, so it spread into the society and nobody, you know, detects it. But if they know about this, what is this, and if something change in society happens, they become excited and they can detect it. So I will not go into the other questions in detail, but it is something like this, that if you give information to the people who know about this thing, they become excited and they can detect a problem. But if you give information to those people who don't know anything, it is for them, it is normal, and it is a problem. You know, it will spread, and after that someone will detect and it will become a problem. So here he has done comparison of science and how these scientific studies can help in you know, detection of this radicalism and terrorism in the society. So you can pass. Next please. Okay.
Hello everyone, my name is Marif Mumtaz and I am a student of PS Psychology at University of Sargodha in Pakistan. I sincerely thank Kyrgyz State Law for providing me this fortunate opportunity to present my paper before this distinguished platform. The topic of my paper is Terrorism as Radicalism, a Psychological Perspective. As terrorism is not a new concept, it is a big hurdle in socio-economic development and political stability of a nation. Moreover, the involvement of adolescents and youth is critically alarming. The major concern of this paper is providing some psychological as well as educational measures that are helpful in reducing radicalism. This include preschool and school training, psychoeducation, imitation and modeling, principles of operant conditioning, role of media, religious education, and justice without discrimination. Please have a look on the paper for further details. Thank you everyone for your kind attention.
So she's a psychology student, and she has done a psychological study, and basically, as I can see, that she has made an argument that how to psychologically prepare our children so that they can tackle the terrorism. In which his cases, but I will not go into the cases. I will go to some of the solutions which she has presented. So she says that in preschool and school training, that in development psychology, early childhood is the period of blooming and punning, making and breaking of natural connections, neutral connections. So if parents, they think that something is radical or terrorism, the best time is the preschool and school training time. They can start training their children so that they can build their mentality. The next solution, she says that it is imitation and modeling. So she gave the example of social learning theory of aggression proposed by Bandura, that indicates that violence always follows observation. So if children, they see that violence, there is a possibility that they will go towards this violence. So if children will see something peaceful, there is a possibility that they will become peaceful. So there is a possibility to do imitation and modeling of good things so that people can psychologically, especially children, can psychologically prepare themselves. Then she said that about psychoeducation, as she was mentioning, that various workshop and trainings for the parents, because the parents are the people who are in direct contact with their children. So there should be trainings and seminars not only for the experts or academicians, but for the mothers or the parents who are dealing with their children. Religious education, she's saying that the anti-radicalism Quranic verses should be displayed in educational institutions and public places that can develop insight among the people. She says that the religious clergy or religious scholars, they take example of religious verses. They tell these religious verses to the people that it is written in Quran that do this. So she is saying that there are many verses in Quran which are anti-terroristic kind of things. So they should be displayed in schools and colleges. They should be written on the walls or where people can see them. So they will have a memory built upon these verses, and when in future someone will tell them that Quran says that do this, they can readily come up with this verse that Quran also said that do this. She is talking about role of media. She is talking about justice without discrimination. Then she is talking about apparent conditioning. So apparent conditioning, it works on the principle of association by reinforcement. Adolescents should be awarded with positive reinforcement when they discourage violent radicalism. It can permanently associate with behavior with anti-radicalism acts. So she said that apparent conditioning means when youth people like youngsters, we do something for the radicalism, against radicalism, or we come against terrorism, we don't get appreciation. For example, we have done this conference and that's it. People should appreciate us. People should motivate us because we have contributed. Okay. So in adolescent means majority of you have already passed their 20s, or maybe someone who is less than 20 or 16 or 70s. So this is a period when if you get appreciation, you continue doing this. Okay, so this is the apparent conditioning suggestion. And conclusion, I will not read conclusion. In conclusion, we can say that she has tried to discuss some of the points through which we can psychologically prepare our children and adolescents to tackle this radicalism on psychological level. So with this, I think time is up. And what about time is up?
Yeah,
Coffee break is ready.
Yeah.
I will not